Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Waugh. What do we do? Well, I would like to say it's reasonably obvious, isn't it? We do a sports show every day on the platform 1 till 4, and this is the highlights package of that show. Special guests on the program today, including Joseph Parker, fresh from his 5th win in a row, a points decision in Saudi against Big Bang Zhang, and he's got to get in the ring and fight that big boy again. As well as Ben Ross. Why not talk NRL every day? I mean, there's always something, isn't there, to discuss with the NRL. Ben joined us to reflect on the first 2 weeks of the season. He played for the Sharks, he played for the Rabbits, he played for the Panthers, he played for the Dragons, and also infamous for why on earth did he do this? And he explains on the podcast, go toe-to-toe with the raging bull, Gordon Tallis. Remember that. And just look up the footage. Ben lost that one, and I think he's quite happy to accept it too. But he won a grand final. He's got a ring, as well as Andre Adams, Bangladesh coach, now ensconced in Dhaka. What's it like living there? And how's he getting on? We caught up with Andre. The Tasmanian Devils. Look, if you don't have an AFL side, maybe now's the time to jump and choose this team. They won't be in the comp for another 4 years, but they already have 100,000 signed up members. Mind you, not everyone in Tasmania is happy about the fact they're going to build a brand new stadium to accommodate them. As well as that, we talked White Ferns and look, this conundrum about 2 key players constantly missing games for New Zealand because they're playing at the T20. This is a subject that should be talked about, and we do on the show. As always, we start the show the same way every day. Tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. What value is there on the silver fern for these cricketers who decide to only represent New Zealand when they feel like it? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
The White Ferns are right now the most underperforming national sports team in New Zealand. They rank alongside the Football Ferns, who, as we all know, are irrelevant on the world stage. The Football Ferns' record since Yitka coach took over, this is before the recent Olympic qualifiers, was played 32, won 5, drawn 6, lost 21. Goals for 15. 15 goals in 32 games, goals against 55. Of course, the record has just been inflated by those Olympic qualifiers when we beat Samoa 19-0 and the Solomons 45-3 or whatever it was. Truth is, the team bottle every big occasion they ever play. And so too, at the moment, do the White Ferns. Yesterday's thrashing at the hands of England follows on from losing for the first time to Pakistan last December. On both occasions, our 2 best players were absent. They had better things to do. They had more cash to earn playing T20 leagues overseas. Are we selecting the right players for our national women's cricket team? I don't know. Let's look at Izzy Gaze, for example. Batter, wicketkeeper. She averaged 4 in the Super Smash. 4 with the bat. Is there no one else in better form? As for Sophie Devine and Amelia Kerr, when will anyone in New Zealand cricket grow a pair of white balls and say enough is enough? It simply isn't right that these players choose money over the silver fern. I don't care what anyone says about this. The only reason they now enjoy those T20 contracts overseas is because they have played for New Zealand. If playing for your country isn't attractive enough anymore, then let them go and pick players who do want to represent us. Sophie Devine chose not to train with her teammates in camp ahead of this England series. She instead went back to Perth after the Big Bash and prepared by herself over Zoom sessions. Gee, that's a great teammate, isn't it? My mail is she doesn't even want to be there at the moment. My mail is also that this is a very unhappy New Zealand side. The players don't like each other. And if that's the case, if that is true, how can you expect them to even play for each other? The last T20 World Cup, the White Ferns didn't make it out of the group stage. And if you remember, Devine then complained that the domestic comp here in New Zealand wasn't good enough, didn't prepare them well enough. Well, how about you do something about it, like come back and play it and teach the younger generation? The last one-day Cricket World Cup, 8 teams were involved here in New Zealand. We finished 6th. Professional sport is a winning business, and this team, the White Ferns, are continuously failing. So I say start with the selection. The silver fern is clearly, for Devine and Kerr, no longer an incentive, which means time for you both to go, because playing for your country is not a right, it's a privilege.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Sports, news, headlines.
Yeah, quite a bit swirling around today. Certainly not a slow news day, as many would like to throw around on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Injury
Injury days.
Injury days. Sorry, I'm eating some minestrone. Got caught in my throat.
I'll tell you what, you were choking up before as well when you were introing the show.
Big bit of onion, mate.
It's not, I mean, they're quite...
I've got to eat it all because Puppy is looking at it. Puppy is looking at it, and that means that he wants it.
I can see Puppy. Puppy is snoozing. Puppy's not looking at it. You're just hungry. But if you cook the onion right, it just slides down your throat. You obviously haven't cooked it right.
Came out of a packet, pal. Okay, so when's the last time you made minestrone from scratch?
I don't make minestrone.
There you go. Okay.
Well, but I'm not relevant to your point.
I win.
I had it in Paris, actually. I had minestrone in Paris. It's quite good. Anyway, World Rugby are considering lowering the tackle height in the elite game, as well as reducing the number of replacements as part of a big plan to broaden the global appeal of the sport. The role of the TMO will also come under scrutiny by what has been termed specialist working groups as part of the world governing body's bid to make the game more entertaining. There's a lot of different rule changes and whatnots. They're looking to change the caterpillar rucks. They're looking at that 20-minute red card. A lot of things you can read about. This is all over the national, the New Zealand sports news websites. Go to the Herald, go to Stuff, go wherever. They've talked about these massive changes. And from what I've managed to pick apart from a quick look, I like it. I like a lot of the things they're looking at changing. This was all part of the shape the game forum.
Talk about how we can be more nimble and agile
we
in the
wanted to get
space.
together and
I
talking
think
about
we
being in the
are
space
really
where we can
hoping we
make the
get
decision.
into
Just
the forum.
implement the decisions,
Just
you
do it.
clowns.
Stop
talking
you're
about
putting
it.
roadblocks in front of yourselves
do
and
it.
wondering how you can't pass them. Anyway, Wallabies winger Filippo Daugunu, I hope I pronounced that right, Filippo Daugunu, will miss a second game for the Melbourne Rebels against the Hurricanes on Friday after an unpaid $7,000 debt owed to him by the club.
Yeah,
the Rebels
pay
can't
it.
pay him.
Yeah, and do you know what the deal is behind this?
What?
So he relocates from Brisbane to Melbourne, and they promised to reimburse him for his relocation, right? $7,000 worth. But when he sent the invoice in, the very next day, they go into liquidation. So now the Rebels are turning around and saying, oh, it's a Rugby Australia thing. And Rugby Australia saying, oh, no, it's a Melbourne Rebels.
So everyone's putting their head in the sand.
Just pay the guy.
Yeah.
Come on. $7,000 means a lot to him. Pay the man.
Yeah. Well, he's owed it by his
Sods.
employer.
Yeah. Pay it yourself.
If you don't do it, you're going to head into some legal issues here.
Well, just pay the money and get him back playing. Come on.
Cricket Australia have called off a 2020 series against Afghanistan, citing a deteriorating human rights situation for women and girls in the Taliban-ruled country. Good on you, Cricket Australia. I'm being serious. That wasn't sarcasm.
No, same.
Yeah, I'm being
and
serious.
also, this is kind of harks back to me to the apartheid days, mate, and that is it going to change the way the Taliban acts?
No.
Probably not.
They don't care.
No, but the more international pressure you apply, I think, it's the only thing that you can do. So, yeah, I actually applaud Australian cricket on this one. It's a shame for Afghanistan. God, it's a shame. It really is, but hopefully it works.
I'm jumping between sports here. Apologies as I run through the news websites in New Zealand. But here's a rugby story. Former top 14 in New Zealand Sevens star Toby Arnold. He was a star. I'd never heard of him until now. But anyway, Toby Arnold has answered an SOS for the injury-ravaged Crusaders. He's signed on with the team as short-term injury replacement. Good on you, Toby. Russian and Belarusian athletes will not take part in the opening ceremony at the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Geez, I tell you what, that's a punishment, isn't it? So they're still allowed to compete, though, are they?
The IOC.
They're still allowed to compete, though.
A decision on them being part of the closing ceremony will be taken at a later date.
Oh, yeah.
Athletes from Russia
That's
and
gonna kill 'em, mate. That'll kill 'em.
Belarus, of course, if they qualified for the games, they can compete as neutrals, not under the Russian flag.
Don't you just want to get somebody from the IOC and just start slapping them? Just start slapping them. You are useless. Slap.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what are you doing? Slap.
Well, if you slap them, all these coins and notes will fall out. The Russian notes.
It's just pathetic, isn't it?
Pinata.
You're sitting there acting like big boys and you're frightened little mice. Oh, Vladimir. Ah, Vladimir. Ah.
Why are they scared of Vladimir?
Because everyone has to fly over the Ukraine at some stage, mate.
That's good.
Oh, stray missile. Oh, sorry, got your plane.
Excuse me. Former ice hockey player Konstantin Koltsov, who was the partner of Arina Sabalenka, the female tennis star who's won a couple of Grand Slams, he's died at the age of 42. Very sad. Koltsov represented Belarus at the 2002 and 2010 Winter Olympics. And Real Madrid have filed a complaint against the referee who took charge of Sunday morning's win, at Osasuna in La Liga for omitting alleged racist abuse towards forward Vinicius Jr. from his match report. So Vinicius Jr. alleged that there was I'm guessing a player or someone from the other team, or maybe
before.
Someone in the crowd who was racially abusing him. The referee said, "Yep, great," but didn't make note of it. Didn't put it in his match report. That's not a good look, is it? And again, I'm jumping between codes here. I'm trying to fit things in as I'm working through the website. But another rugby story. England centre Manu Tuolangi will leave Sale Sharks. Sale? That's how you pronounce it, isn't it?
Yeah, Sale.
At the end of the season. A move which is likely to bring an end to his international career. He's been playing for ages, Manu Tuolangi. He's been around for years.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The platform.
JP, Joseph Parker, 5 fights in a row now he has won. And that Wilder win, and it was, no question about it. 2-0 as far as the judges went, and one was awarded a draw, but Joseph won that fight. That has changed everything for him. He says he's calmer. He says he's in the best fitness state that he's ever been. He says he's a smarter boxer than ever. Let Joseph explain on the platform. Can you just imagine now if you had this knowledge now and you thought like that when you fought Anthony the first time, for example? How much have you learnt over the last couple of years? It sounds like an enormous amount.
If I had what I have now, like at the beginning of my career of fighting Andy Ruiz or fighting Joshua, I'll be a totally different fighter. I think I've matured as a fighter, not only physically but mentally as well. I've got a great team around me who I really believe in with my whole heart, and and now when I'm not in camp, I keep in shape. I eat clean. I spend quality time with the family, but I enjoy it. I really do love it way more than I did before.
Is this just something that is natural to learn as a fighter? Like, I'm sure that people told you these things in the early part of your career, but is it one of those things you've actually got to go through it to learn it?
I think you have to go through the ups and downs in order to learn what really works for you. And I know a lot of people in the beginning of my career and throughout my career have given me advice and given me bits and pieces here and there, but I never really the complete package as to what I have now with George Lockhart and Andy Lee. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that these two together have made a complete change in not only my physical, how I look physically, but mentally as well, and the focus and also the confidence going into fights.
Joseph Parker is with us. He's a really tricky fighter, Big Bang Zhang, isn't he? He looks awkward to fight, and he's obviously dangerous.
He's very tricky. He's very dangerous, and he packs a punch, and that's why they call him the Big Bang. And he, with Zhang and the experience that he has coming from, he's been to the Olympics once or twice, I believe, in being an amateur for a long time. I actually fought him as an amateur and lost. So at the moment, it's 1-1. It's 1 to me, 1 to him. But my one means a lot more because it's the professional game, the one that means the most in our careers.
Do you really want to fight him again, or is it just one of those contractual things where you have to?
It's a contractual thing. But in saying that, I am contracted to fight Zhang again, but you just never know what's going to happen in boxing and what the people in Saudi Arabia, the promoters, what they want to do. So it's either a rematch or either they might even scratch it and give me someone else. So at the moment, I'm just keeping in shape. I'm still spending good time here at home with my family, keeping in shape. I just finished an hour-and-a-half run on the treadmill and just staying ready for when they buzz me up again.
Again, is this a learned and a maturity thing? Because previously, I know as a young fighter, you'd have your fight, and because it's just so intense, the camp and the fight and everything, and then you've got a few months off, and you just you don't let yourself go, but what you do is you kind of perhaps let yourself mentally go. It sounds as though you're actually a lot more in train, though, now.
I'm a lot more in training. I'm a lot more focused, and I'm happy, and I'm a happy fighter. And when I'm in training camp, I'm a very happy fighter, and I do everything right. That's training, eating, and sleeping, and just following the plan. When I'm at home, I feel like I'm a happy father and a happy husband. And in camp, it's very important to be a happy father and husband because that translates into your boxing camp and translates into your fight. So, as a complete package with my career and with my family life, I feel like everything is on track.
How did you
I'm just a happy man.
Sorry for interrupting. How did you reach that place, Joseph? Did you talk to people? Do you kind of get advice from people? Do you have some kind of guru that has impressed this upon you?
It's not so much talking to one person or individual. It's actually talking to a lot of people in my team, and also surrounding yourself with the people, with the right people with the same focus and the same drive and the same goals. And when you surround yourself with these types of people, everyone's aiming to achieve one thing, and that's we all work in unison.
Because it must be, times really lonely when you're away in camp, just not seeing your family and your kids. And I know that you talk to them every night, but but your wife and your family are at home. They're probably worried as hell about you and all of that. How do you kind of absorb all of that and still be able to focus on what is a brutal thing you do?
In recent times now, I've been very blessed by the sport of boxing to live a good life and to travel the world and have the opportunity now to travel with my family.
Okay.
We were in Ireland 4.5 weeks when I was in training camp. But the only reason why they came home when I went to Saudi Arabia was because my wife is pregnant with another baby number 5.
Congratulations.
So thank you very much. But boxing has blessed us to be able to travel together as a family. We're able to enjoy life around the world and experience these experiences that not many get to experience. So it's a blessing.
5 in a row, my man. 5 in a row. You're boxing better now than you ever have. How about that?
I think I'm boxing better now because it's 5 in a row. No, I'm boxing a lot better now because I understand what I'm doing and I understand what they're trying to teach me. And I'm like, when you're a happy fighter and you enjoy everything that you do, you're very dangerous. And I feel like it's just everything is just complete at the moment. And I'm still striving to do a lot better than I have done in the past and doing now.
How has that Wilder fight changed everything for you? Because it has, hasn't it?
It's changed everything because of the outcome, getting to win on the big stage, and obviously the boost of confidence. And there's a few things in camp we learned from that fight that we're able to adjust for the Zhang fight and future fights, not only with training, but with the nutrition and the rest and everything else. So every at 11 years of fighting, I'm still learning, and we're still picking up things that we need to work on, not only training-wise, but with everything else that a boxer has to go through.
You must have been absolutely chuffed at Anthony Joshua's comments afterwards, because they were really generous in praise for you, and he also intimated then, didn't he, that he would like to fight you again, and you deserve that level of fight. I thought that was really cool from him.
I thought it was great, and I did go into his change room after the fight, and we had a good chat, and we congratulated each other, and we said to each other, we'd love to do it again one day. And there's a lot of respect between us. When you share the ring with someone for 12 rounds, there's always going to be respect because we're both in there giving it our best. And we had that discussion, and hopefully we can do it one day soon again.
How much more dangerous is he now, man? I mean, he destroyed Francis.
Oh, he looked dangerous.
Yeah.
He looked dangerous. Yeah. He looked lethal. He looked energetic. He looked powerful. And he's a force to be reckoned with again in the heavyweight division.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Ben Ross, ladies and gentlemen. If you know your NRL, you say those two words, what immediately springs to mind? Going toe-to-toe with Gordon Tallis in full Raging Bull mode. Why on earth would you ever have done that in his first year in the NRL? Ben joined the program today just to talk about, after a couple of weeks, where the comp is at the moment. We could talk about the NRL every single day. It is that good. It is that uppermost of mind. People love it. People want it. Here's Ben on it. Just in the last couple of decades, you stopped playing over 10 years ago now. Just in terms of the people that you associate with, that you bump into, that recognise you, all of that, are people talking about the competition and the game more? Do you notice that?
Yeah, and it's funny that I suppose the first 2 weeks of this year, we haven't really spoken about the games themselves. We're more talking about what's happened off the field or political things within the game, and I think that's really taken the focus off some really good football. But then again, you talk about the heroics of players and how good they've been and the difference they're making for each side. And obviously we're seeing the grand final replay this week, and it's going to be, I suppose, a really good battle, even though Adam Reynolds is out, and James Fisher-Harris, who's one of my ultimate favourite players. It'll still be a great battle.
Yeah, look, and obviously the launch in Vegas was, in some ways the perfect way to kick it off. It's a razzmatazz entertainment business, isn't it? I'm not so sure whether they get a foothold over there, but I just love the occasion. I just love the idea of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, and it's we need to make this game greater and spread it wider. I know we talk about it's a national rugby league and it's in New Zealand and the east coast of Australia, but they've got to start spreading it, and they've done that well by moving it over to Vegas in the bright lights. And the two games that were played were phenomenal. They really set a great standard for the year ahead, and I know that a lot of Americans stood up and took note, but the game itself, it's a great product, and as you said, we talk about it a lot, and I think it's going to do well over there.
Can your Penrith side go 4 out of 4? That would just be unprecedented. Well, apart from the 60s, the St George lot, of course, yeah. Mm.
Oh, exactly, yeah. And it's one of those things, I look at the side every week and see who's in and out, and obviously being a big Panthers fan myself, I do hope that they go their fourth year around, but I think it'll be very hard. There's a lot of teams vying for that, I suppose, top spot, and on their day, anyone can really knock anyone off. And it's just, we talk about the injury tolls. With the game being faster, there's a lot more injuries as well in regards to the soft tissue damage and that type of thing. So, yeah, it'll weigh it up. But I think everyone would love to see Penrith win, especially if you're a Penrith fan. But then again, there's the namesakers that sort of go against them and hope that they don't. So it's going to be exciting.
How does the body recover after you've played well over a decade at that level, playing in the position that you did? Do you have aches and pains these days?
Yeah, it's funny enough. I actually just stepped in the office and we spoke about this exact thing. So where I train, and it is the aches and pains. So where I train, there's a recovery centre there. So I continuously doing rehab of my shoulders, my knees, my ankles and my neck. But it's a continuous thing. Football, as we talk about, is a brutal sport. You play it because you love it more than anything else. And I wouldn't have changed anything that I did with my career and the way that I played. But yeah, I definitely feel it now. I'm in my 40s now, and I feel like I've got a body of a 60 or a 70-year-old on some days.
Do you and Gordon ever get together?
Yeah, we catch up occasionally, just depending on what games we're at or whether we're in at Foxtel or whatever it may be. But I remember my career starting off with that infamous fight with Gordon. But we sort of bury the hatchet there and get along quite well, do a number of charitable events together.
Have you ever looked at that footage and thought, Ben, what the hell are you doing, mate?
Every day, and we laugh about it. I think when it first happened, you can see it in the video. I think, what am I doing? And I try to get away, and that's the regret I have, is that I should have run faster. Instead, no, he ended up grabbing me and bailed me out about 100 times. It was quite good.
Look, we've spoken to him a number of times on air. He's such a good fella, isn't he? He's just, he's one of those guys. I think they invented that phrase "white line fever" for.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You look at players in the rugby league, especially Gordon Tallis. He's one of these guys that literally took the aggression out on the field. He wanted to kill everyone when he got on the field, but coming off the field, you understand what a great bloke he is, what he does for the game and the community around the area. So, yeah, it's one of those things, is that he could switch on and off, and a lot of players need to take a notice of what he did for the game and while he was in the game as well.
Warriors, what are your thoughts? 0-2 at the moment, real tough game against the Raiders. I mean, this is a side that has captivated New Zealand, man. I mean, look, honestly, and I'm not joking, you drive around Auckland, every fourth or fifth car you see, it feels like there's a Warriors sticker on it. They've just all of a sudden just elevated here in New Zealand. Everyone is on the back of this team. But at the same time, it can turn the other way quickly if all of a sudden they go 0-3 and the finals look, a million miles in the distance.
Yeah, so they've had two really good games and being pipped at the post both times. It's disappointing. Like the first game against the Sharks, I really thought they had the Sharks measured there, and then something happened, and then obviously we talk about the greatest try of the year so far, beating him again. It's a really difficult one. I really like the Warriors. I feel that their game style, the way they really want to play and stick in for each other, is something that I love about the team, and I feel that if they get back on track, I know Canberra are going to be very physical. That's what Canberra do. They come out and they try to bash you and intimidate you. But the Warriors, they're such a fast but big and aggressive mobile pack, and that's where I think they'll win it. I know you've got the likes of Sean Johnson and Luke Metcalf running the game, which is fantastic. Both were at the Sharks when I was there, and Luke Metcalf, amazing. I think he just re-signed for the Warriors, didn't he?
Yeah, he has 2 years, yeah.
So, so that's fantastic. So the likes of stabilising that team around those two is a good thing, and let's just hope that, I suppose, Kurt Capel in the back row there, he's got, a lot of presence in what he does. So excited to see what the Warriors, but as you said, if they lose 0-3, then it's going to be a tough grind, because you always want to get as many wins in those first 5 rounds as you can.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
I hate it when you bring logic and common sense into an argument. 5 separate sporting topics, ladies and gentlemen, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell goes ding, we move on to the next topic. Cricket Australia cancelling their T20 series versus Afghanistan in the UAE as a protest against the Taliban and their continued brutalisation of women in Afghanistan. Do you approve? Speaking of things cricket, the White Ferns lose again. The conundrum surrounding Sophie Devine and Amelia Kerr and playing for your country when you feel like it. It's a sacred cow, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot ever criticise any New Zealand female athletes, and you certainly can't criticise them for the fact that they'd rather take the cash than play for the Silver Fern. The Wallabies ringer, Felipe Dangunu. I hope I pronounced that right. No disrespect if I didn't. Pay him the goddamn money, Australian rugby, or the Rebels, that he's owed. And then he'll get back playing again. Joseph Parker. You like that interview? What impressed you the most about hearing from Joseph? The Tasmanian Devils. Let's start with this.
Tasmanians have had a bloody gutful over your stadium, and you can stick it up your bum.
Look, that is why you have to endorse people's right to protest, right, Lachlan? Because of that soundbite right there.
Just great.
Isn't it?
I love it so much. And you can see footage of it. Now, how do I say this respectfully? She is a person that... I've got to say this the right way. Not the most pleasant on the eyes. That's all I'll say.
Well, does that matter?
No, it doesn't matter. But I just love it. There's something rugged and Tasmanian about it.
This is the greatest thing about it. She is Tassie to a T for Tassie.
She's not this dolled up, really good looking, rich princess from Sydney.
No.
She's this hard ass, rough around the edges, Tassie girl. It's great.
So Tasmania is going to have an AFL side. Now, they've played footy in Tassie for over 100 years. We're going to talk to a bloke about this after 3 o'clock, Chris Rowbottom from ABC out of Hobart there. 100,000 members. We mentioned this the other day, Lachlan. They had 30,000 signed up members after a couple of days for the Tasmanian Devils, who don't play for another 4 years. They're up to 100,000.
It's incredible.
There's 640 or 50,000 people live in Tassie.
A sixth of Tasmania.
Mate, they're going to get at least half of that state will be signed up. My message, and the reason I'm bringing this story up is, are you listening, Auckland FC?
The equivalent.
This is what you do. Start a club. Start getting members to your club, Auckland AFC. Here's my idea. I'll give it to you away for free. $10 membership, $5 for kids. You get a free ticket on that. You can't go to the opening game on it, okay? That's the thing, okay? You can't go to the opener, but you can use that ticket to go to any other game. It's really simple, isn't it? You know, you've got to actually give people something. You've got to hand them something. And people love being a part of something, part of a movement, part of a club, part of a protest, part of an operation, part of an organisation. Apparently everyone who contributes $10 to this gets their name on a wall at the league club. So in generations to come, you can actually say to your kids, go and have a look at the Tasmanian Devils wall, and over there is the platform New Zealand, because we're going to join. We're going to join, Lachlan. There's our name up there. So that if we ever go to a game, we can say we're foundation members.
Can we be the official New Zealand radio station of the Tasmanian Devils?
They're my team.
Yeah.
I've always wanted an AFL team, and so they're going to be my team. I kind of was a bit of a Swans person because I spent a lot of time in Sydney. My brother stayed there a lot.
Of course.
Oh, all right, okay, leave it out. I mean, I had a damn good reason for doing it. And anyway, the Tasmanian Devils.
Yeah. Now, just quickly.
Hey, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do they exist?
Do they exist? Or does it happen?
Does the Tasmanian Devil exist?
Oh, the animal?
Yes.
Yes? I'm pretty sure.
Well, we'll ask them about that. I don't know. I thought they were extinct, but anyway. Sorry.
Are they extinct?
I don't know.
No, they're not extinct.
Mate, who bloody knows?
Mate, I had a whole lot of animal picture books when I was young.
Oh, here we go.
They weren't extinct.
Of course. Okay, well,
No, I wanted to be a vet when I was a little kid, seriously.
Okay.
I wanted to work with animals. I loved the zoo, I loved
505 on
animals.
the text, people. Do they still exist? Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
I was just going to... a sixth of Tasmania is signed up as a member to the Tasmanian Devils. So it's probably going to be up to 150 by the time they kick off, right? Probably maybe a little more than that.
Well, if you consider that they've all got 2 heads, that'd double at 3,000. See?
But, whatever. It's not quite the Methven joke, but fine, all right. Think about it with the Warriors. Auckland's got 1.5 million people. What's a sixth of that? Actually, seriously, what is a sixth of 1.5 million?
Oh, about 220,000, something like that, 230,000.
What's a quarter? It's, 250,000. Could you imagine the Warriors having 250,000 members?
Yeah, okay, that's
Not one NRL club has 50.
That's a great perspective to put on it, isn't it? That is how popular this team is already, and they don't even start for 4 years. This is an easy one. The Wallabies winger, Felipe Daunu.
Daununu, I think. Daugunu.
He's missing his second consecutive game for the Rebels, and this is against the Canes on Friday because the Rebels owe him $7,000 for relocation costs moving from Brisbane to Melbourne over the summer. And again, what happened is that when he put the invoice in, well, the Rebels went into liquidation. So they now say, and it's not our invoice, it's Rugby Australia. And Rugby Australia is saying, no, it's not our invoice. You've got to contact the creditors. You're part of the creditors list for the Melbourne Rebels who owe $21 million. Pay the guy the money, you friggin' sods, right? Pay him the money.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
You made a promise to him. You made a promise. Keep your word to this man.
Well, if you want to survive beyond this year, I mean, maybe they're behaving this way because they know they're done and they're dead in the water. But if you hoped to survive and you actually thought you had a good chance to survive beyond this year, as the Rebels, wouldn't you do everything you can to protect your image?
It's all about the brand and all about the image.
Terrible.
And also Rugby Australia. Come on, it's $7,000, mate.
Well, you step in and do something as well.
You spend $1.5 million on Joseph Swali, all right? Pay the $7,000 to the guy. Joseph Parker, what did you like about that interview?
Happy.
There you go.
Upbeat, positive, happy. What's that old saying? Winners are grinners? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's winning right now. And we were saying before that there's something changed ahead of that Wilder fight.
Yeah.
A training thing, by the sounds of it, a diet thing. And he's winning fights now. Like that, I more so than you really heaped on Joseph Parker, I think, ahead of that Wilder fight and said, oh no, his career's done. Stop talking about him being in the heavyweight title picture. And
I had my doubts. I had my doubts.
I was in the US when it happened, and I was shocked. I looked at the highlights. I followed a live blog about it. Couldn't watch it. I was pleasantly shocked.
He won the fight, Lachlan.
He won the fight, and I was so happy to be... I have no problem being proven wrong and things like this, because what do I know? So I was so stoked to be proven wrong.
Same. He's just a decent bloke is what he is,
He's had good wins since then, and he's absolutely catapulted himself back into that title picture. The next... I don't know what his next fight will be.
He's boxing smarter. He is smarter, and that is the key to this, because you can be the greatest fighter in the world, but are you smart enough? And he sounds as though he's picked up a lot in that, and he admits it, and he's not afraid to admit it, which again means he's smart.
Exactly. And it's funny... I don't know if it was... my flatmate loves his boxing, really knows a lot about it. Could have been him who said this. I could have read it somewhere. That as a boxer, you actually get into your prime in your early, mid-30s. You're not in your prime...
Yeah, I'm not sure mid. I'd say late 20s, early 30s for sure.
You're certainly not in your prime in your mid-20s.
Well, that's because you got ring craft.
Yeah.
You know? And so, more power to him. Joseph, we're right in your corner. You know, every pun intended.
The next big fight of his, which I can assume by default will probably be Joshua, will be hard. But regardless, he's in that sort of... that big four.
I just want him to retire after that. I just want him to get a big payday there, and then he can actually spend the rest of the time. He's having his 5th child, so you got a lot to look after, my boy. The White Ferns, and again, when I read that article that Sophie Devine, the captain, wrote on Cricinfo, where once again she's bemoaning the standard of New Zealand domestic cricket, isn't that just a kick in the white balls to NZC? Here's a woman that just exists completely outside of the norms in terms of any teammate. You know, I've heard stories along the lines is that, you're not allowed to wear shorts to training. She wears shorts. She's the captain. She didn't want to train with the team before the England series. Goes off to Perth, trains on her own and attends Zoom conference calls. Bemoaned the lack of talent in the domestic competition and the poor preparation that it provides when we got dicked at whatever the female equivalent of is at the T20 World Cup, right? Because this team is like the football ferns on the world stage. They bottle it every time they go. Well, just about. We get a bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games or something like that.
That seems to be a bit of an outlier, though. I think it's a little bit like that Norway result for the football ferns. Just kind of there's this thing, there's a spike up in performance out of nowhere.
Sophie, you have been given everything by New Zealand cricket. How do I explain this? You have lived a very privileged life as a cricketer. I don't begrudge you that. But how about putting something back? You know, I send the same message to Ruby Tui. It's just too easy to run away and earn your money playing these Mickey Mouse tournaments and things. But to turn around and then actually say, oh, the competition's not good enough. Come back here. Inspire the young generation. Teach the young women who are playing. Put something back into the game instead of take.
Now I have
doing your somersaults and your backflips at the IPL, showing off. Well, how about coming here and showing some of what you've actually got back here in New Zealand?
Yeah, totally agree with everything there. Now, just quickly, on the Tasmanian devil.
Yes.
They're not extinct. They're endangered. In terms of how many there are.
Okay.
I saw a number just before. Oh, never mind. It's gone. They've been around for 3,500 years, by the way.
Longer than people have there. Chris Rowbottom from the ABC out of Tassie after 3. Final topic. Cricket Australia, once again, pulling out the political card. They're not going to play Afghanistan in the UAE. They're scheduled 3 matches, T20s in August. They've said no. The Taliban have cracked down even harder on women's rights in Afghanistan, if they could possibly crack down any harder. Girls there aren't allowed to be educated. They wear the full burqa. They basically get bought and sold into slavery, sexual slavery. It's just revolting and disgusting. You don't even want to research it. It'll make you physically ill. I don't know whether this protest is going to work from Australia, and I feel gutted for the Afghani cricketers because it's not them. They're not the Taliban. And I know the pressure that was applied to South Africa over the apartheid years, and it worked, Lachlan, because rugby and cricket to the white South African government, they were the epitome to them. And not to be able to play internationals, it did get to them in the end. And it was a major part. Everyone says this, any book you read, even Nelson Mandela, it was a major part. The sporting boycotts were a major part. I'm not so sure the Taliban are going to give a stuff about this. And so you kind of wonder whether or not it's a protest worth protesting about. If it was going to work, I'd say go ahead, Australia. But I don't know whether it's going to work. But at the same time, I kind of feel that something's got to be done and somebody has to take a stand, don't they? But whether they'll listen to the Taliban, who knows? Well, they won't, will they?
Well, they're not really a political government group, are they? They're just an extremist group with strong political views.
Yeah, with a whole lot of guns.
Yeah. I can't imagine, see the difference between them and what South Africa were is that I think if you're a smart, savvy politician and you're a person of the people, as you like to think your politicians are, not that they are, but you'd like to think so, they understand the importance of sport and what it does for their culture and their people and bringing them together. I can't imagine the Taliban give us stuff, as you say,
well, plus also
about what it does for their people.
I don't know what their...
If it was the men's... So it's the men's Australian team not going over there to play them, yeah. I don't think...
Look, the other thing was, there was a hell of a lot of trade and financial pressure put on South Africa. I'm not sure that would work in Afghanistan.
No.
Do they trade with anyone? What do they trade? Dirt? Oh, no, poppies. They trade heroin, don't they? Yeah, that's right, because they grow, the world's biggest heroin growing.
Well, I guess we're not going to go on holiday in Afghanistan.
No, you won't be going on holiday in Afghanistan.
Martin Devlin's just been blacklisted. No, but... they're not a group, I think, that is driven by, oh, damn, well, our people won't enjoy their sport now.
Yeah,
okay, we'll go back on what we think's right. They don't care about what others think. They don't care about what others want. They care about their own ideals.
The old mate Andre Adams is now coach of the Bangladeshi men's team. He's got a 2-year contract. What's it like living up there? He's just messaged me and he said, if the phone crashes during the conversation, we have random power cuts like they do in South Africa, okay? So just beware of that. Coming Bangladesh. How you doing, brother?
Hi, matey.
You good?
I'm good, mate. I've had an eventful start. I spent a couple of days in the hospital. We've had a series loss and a series win, so it's been an interesting start.
Oh, well, tell us about the hospital thing, mate. What the hell happened?
Oh, I just got something, whether it's the water or food. But yeah, put me in the bed for a couple of days and had drips and stuff coming out of me. So, pleased to say the hospital in Chittagong was excellent. So, a couple of days there, then back on my feet, back to the game. So, happy days.
Dre, are you based in Dhaka?
No, so we're sort of all over the place at the moment. We've got a lot of cricket everywhere. So we're playing in Sylhet. We've got a test match starting in Sylhet in a couple of days. We started the T20s up here. We played the one-day series down in Chittagong. We're back in Sylhet for this first test match, and then we go back to Chittagong for the second test. We go home for a couple of weeks and then back for a series against Zimbabwe before heading to the World Cup And then after the World Cup, we've a couple of weeks off, and then about a 4.5 month stretch, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So a fair bit of cricket coming up for the boys.
How easy is it to integrate? It's okay for you because you're going to work every day, and we hear it a lot from the families that go up to Japan with the rugby players, and that you're at practice every day, you're at training every day, you've got a busy schedule. It's a hell of a lot harder trying to establish a life for the rest of the family outside of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of navigate my way through. I'm learning about Ramadan. For us to win that third one day the other day, that was actually remarkable. The boys have been fasting. So for those who don't know, that means that they can't eat after 4:45 a.m. They can eat at like 6:15 p.m. And that means that they're up all night trying to get fuel in, which means they get broken sleep and they don't get the fuel up during the day. So they're trying to be professional athletes and play world-class level whilst they're fasting. And
Wow.
That when you look at that, you wouldn't recommend that for any professional athlete.
Not really, no.
For our guys our guys are cramping and making very average decisions in the field, and so you have to learn about the culture and be respectful towards that, and learn and try and navigate your way through that, whilst also saying, well, what can we do around that, which means we can help you out a bit more, because you can't criticise someone who can't make a good decision because they don't have enough fuel in their body.
Yeah, of course.
And you can't criticise someone for not being fit enough when they're cramping if they haven't been able to drink water. So, mate, it's a really interesting place. Learning how to navigate and, as you say, integrate. That's pretty different. The integration is really just within the coaches, but I'm trying to learn about the culture as much as I can, and be very respectful towards our lads. They're all they're all amazing young men. They're happy. They smile. They're very welcoming. They're certainly making my life a lot easier.
In terms of the language barrier, we're talking about being up in Bangladesh here, people. Look, where do you even start with that? Do you have to go to classes, or are you just kind of picking up little bits and pieces of words? Have you got a translator? How does it work?
Well, luckily there's enough people on the team who English is amazing. Our team manager, Nafiz Iqbal, his English is excellent, and so he comes and hangs out by the nets when I'm trying to have a conversation with bowlers. Most of the lads can understand what I'm saying. They just can't. They can't speak back in English that well. So what it does do, actually, from a coaching point of view, is it cuts out the crap. You stop waffling, right, and you actually just end up being really precise with what you're trying to say, and that's really cool. The problem is, of course, when it's been translated, it may be different. It may have a slightly different meaning.
Sure.
So trying to be really clear and really precise with what's actually required, that's one of the things here that's actually a joy. It just cuts out the waffle.
Dre, do you ever feel like when you go into these situations, you've coached the Australians, have you ever felt imposter syndrome, and that you stand there sometimes and go, okay, am I the right guy for this? Should I really be doing this? Can I get my message? Can I improve these guys? Have you ever doubted yourself in that way?
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, I got the job at New South Wales. I walked into the physio room, and Hazel would come and Stark and Lion were in the physio room, and I was like, and they said, "Hey, coach," and I was like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Once you get past that, you sort of fall back on your skills, which is being observant and seeing what they need, and just having conversation, trying to learn about how they do things, and your natural inclination is to try and help and to try and give them something to do, to try and coach. But actually, my best method is just to be observant. I mean, I had the same scenario whenever I go to a new team. You always feel like, what can I offer? But then as soon as you get into it and you actually start getting into training and bits and pieces, there's always an opportunity for conversation and to learn how people do things, and then that just creates more learning. So you certainly suffer from imposter syndrome when you're thinking rather than the doing.
Because I remember asking you a pretty similar question when you were coaching Australia in that, and you said to me then that one of the first things that you do is you've actually got to get alongside these people as human beings more than anything else, because they got to trust you. And when they trust you and realise that you're there only because you're trying to actually help and you're trying to give them the tools that they can help themselves and things like that. Does that change at all? And how much have you learnt about that aspect of your coaching over the last few years?
Yeah, for me, that's everything. if you can't create a relationship where people understand that you're there to help, it can, it's left to interpretation. So you got to be really clear with your intention and your body language around what you're actually trying to create there. Like, is this a scenario where I'm telling you to do something, or is this a scenario where I'm actually here to help you? I'm not, most of those guys are far more skilled than I am. I'm just good at observing what they do and then offering a different perspective. So, you certainly need the relationship piece. And, for when it came to Hazelwood, Cummins and Stark, I had to wait a long time to actually get a relationship, just because they were always gone. And when they did come back, they were preparing for some kind of series. It wasn't until the boys got injured or there was a period where they really wanted something quite specific. And actually the intro was made by the physio because they really trusted the physio, and then the physio liked what I was doing. And so he recommended that I do a session with some of the boys, and that's sort of the end. And you've got to not be too excited to be working with it.
Sure.
You've got to be trying to pay attention. But there's a guy called RJ Smith. He used to work at the he runs Light Smith actually, and he used to be at the Crusaders, and he said you got to look for the coachable opportunities. And that's something that's really stuck with me. And you go into every situation looking for an opportunity as opposed to just running up and saying, dumping information.
Yeah,
so,
God, how wise is that? Let's go to Tassie.
Tasmanians have had a bloody gutful over your stadium.
Chris Robertson.
And you can stick it up your bum.
Chris Robertson. Rowbottom, ABC Sport. Chris, I saw your tweet, mate, and as soon as I saw it, I said to Lachlan, my producer, and I said, we got to get hold of this guy. What a fantastic story. The Tasmanian Devils are 4 years away from competing in the AFL, and already 30,000, then 40,000, 50,000. There's probably going to be 100,000 paid-up members before you even get to go. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's huge. The response has been absolutely enormous, and I guess it's a sign of how desperate people have been for this to finally come to fruition. This has been a 30 or 40 year fight for a lot of people for inclusion into the AFL, and to see the numbers tick up like they have has been pretty astounding. The club was hoping for 40,000 membership sales by October, and that's now sitting at over 100,000. So we're less than 48 hours in. So they've clearly smashed their expectations. Sure, they're only sort of $10 foundation memberships. You get a couple of stickers and your name on the wall at the High Performance Centre in 4 or 5 years' time. But I think it's just representative of people jumping on and people sort of showing their support and putting a small financial contribution ahead of things to show that they're backing it, they support it, and they want it to happen.
Look, we've got a brand new A-League side starting here in Auckland FC, and just, looking at what you're doing, looking at the model and that, I mean, it just seems like such a no-brainer. People want ownership of something, but it's in Australia, especially with your AFL clubs and your league clubs, you have a really big membership thing. Why is that? We haven't been able to convert that in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess it goes back a long way, and it means essentially that your clubs are basically owned by your members, and depending on the tier of membership that you're able to purchase, it can give you things like voting rights at AGMs, and it can give you a certain say in the direction of the club at certain forums, and in terms of board elections and things like that, in terms of governing the club. So that sort of ownership model where the people sort of own the club. I mean, the licenses are owned by the league, but the people sort of own the club, and the club is then sort of responsible to its members. So that's where that sort of comes in. And I think there's an element of tribalism as well. People love being part of something, and particularly in the AFL, the Melbourne-based clubs, it's suburb versus suburb. It's Collingwood and Richmond and Carlton and Essendon. It's literally that's how tightly it is, rather than city versus city. And I think it gets really tribal, and people love wearing the colours and being part of something, and they're happy to pay their membership. Obviously, you get benefits from being a member. You get reserved seating, you get priority access to grand final tickets should your team make it, and other things as well. And so, some people just like having the scarf with the membership number on it and things like that. So it is a big part of things down here, and particularly it's going to be big in Tasmania because the backstory and the history to the Tasmanian club. There's 150 years of football history in this state, and the colours that were unveiled and the name and the jumper, they're not new things. They're sort of Tasmanian footy history from way back in the early 1900s. So people want to tap into that as Tasmanians, and so far they're putting their money where their mouth is, albeit a small financial contribution. But I think it's that longing to be finally part of something.
Chris Rowbottom here, ABC Sport out of Hobart. Are you a native Tassie?
Yeah, I am. I was born and bred here. I've never lived or worked anywhere else. I've worked in a Tasmanian-based newsroom for the past nearly 15 years, and I'm very, very lucky to have never had to have moved away for work or life, and been able to settle down in my home state.
Yeah, because we know that in Australia, you see, you look at New Zealand as being inbred, corn-fed, and Jed sleeps in mummy's bed kind of thing. And I know that in Tasmania, mate, that the rest of Australia sometimes look at you like that as well. So that's why I love the fact that, you've got the Tasmanian island on the front of the jersey as well. It's such a proud-looking logo, mate. Brilliant.
Yeah, and there are so many parallels between Tassie and New Zealand.
Yeah, man.
Like absolutely,
Yeah,
how Tasmania is viewed by the mainland of Australia is sort of how New Zealand is viewed by Australia itself. It's
That's right.
Almost like the little brother or the little cousin or whatever it might be. But yeah, you're right, and that foundation jumper that was launched, again, that's the jumper essentially that was worn by state representative teams, going all the way back to the 1910s and the 1950s and 60s, and the most famous game in Tasmanian football history was in 1990, where a Tasmanian representative team beat a team from Victoria. That just shouldn't happen. That's like a club team beating the All Blacks.
Wow.
In your vernacular.
Yeah,
that's,
wow.
That's just the most famous victory in Tasmanian sport, just about. So that is the jumper. It is a foundation jumper. So the club has sort of clarified it since that it's not necessarily the jumper that the team will wear in 2028 when it starts, but that is the jumper that they wanted to release as the foundation jumper, just as a nod to all those Tasmanians that have worn it in years gone by. So a little nod to the past.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.